Hello everyone, I welcome you back. In this video, we will learn Sigmund Freud theory of personality. Okay, so let us see who was Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud was an Austrian neurologist. He was born in the year 1856 in Vienna and died 1939. He was known as the founding founder of psychoanalysis. He developed the first of the modern personality theories, which is known as Psychoanalytic Theory. Now, let us look into psychoanalytic theory. So what is this theory about? In order to understand this theory, it is important that we know what unconscious is, because it is the cornerstone idea in this personality theory. Freud, he believed that most of our behaviors are caused by thoughts, ideas, and wishes that are in person's brain but are not easily accessible by the conscious part of the mind. Here he means to say that our thoughts, ideas, and wishes influences most of our behaviors, but we are not aware of it. This reservoir of being unaware, or the conception of which we are unaware, is called the unconscious. Freud believed that the unconscious is a part of our biological nature, that certain ideas and thoughts are repressed, that is, pushed out of awareness and into the unconscious. Here it means that unconscious is a part of our biological nature, and so we tend to repress ideas and thoughts which are not pleasant, and we suppress it into the unconscious level. Now let us look into structure of personality. According to Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory of personality, composed of three elements. These three elements of personality are known as the id, the ego, and the superego. They work together to create complex human behaviors. Now let us look into the first element of personality, the id. The id is derived from the Latin word id. The id is the only component of personality that is present from birth. It is entirely unconscious, that we are unaware of its workings, and it represents the inner world of subjective experience. The id is the most primitive part and is driven by pleasure principles, and it aims towards immediate gratifications to satisfy our biological urges and drives such as hunger, thirst, sex, etc. If these needs are not satisfied immediately, the result is a state of anxiety or tension. Now that we already know that it is a subjective experience, which means that it is not concerned with objective reality and is unaffected by the environment. The second element of personality we have is the ego. The Greek and Latin word of ego is I, which means self. The ego is partly conscious and partly unconscious. The ego operates according to the reality principle, that is, it attempts to help the id get what it wants by judging the difference between reality and imaginary, and acts as a mediator or balancer between the demands of id and superego. Ego develops from id and works for id. For instance, if a person is hungry, the id may begin to imagine food and even dream about food. The ego, however, will try to determine how to get some real food. Ego waits for the right moment for the satisfaction of desire, whereas id wants to satisfy desires immediately. The third element of personality we have is superego. The term superego means above the ego and includes the moral ideas that a person learns within the family and society. The superego gives people feelings of pride when they do something correct, the ego idol, and feelings of guilt when they do something they consider to be morally wrong, that is the conscience. The superego is a moral barometer, and it creates feelings of pride and guilt according to the beliefs that they have learned within the family and the culture. Alright, now let us look at levels of consciousness, or levels of mind, according to Sigmund Freud. The first level we have is the level of consciousness. Consciousness is a state of awareness, and it occupies only 1/9 of total mind. The conscious mind contains all of the thoughts, memories, feelings, and wishes of which we are aware at any given moment. This is the aspect of our mental processing that we can think and talk about rationally. The second level of mind is pre-conscious level. Pre-conscious mind includes all mental activities which are not presently active but stored somewhere in our memory. It can be easily accessed when required, and it also acts as a watchman because it prevents certain painful, unpleasant, unacceptable from unconscious memories to reach the conscious mind. Pre-conscious region of mind is not present at birth but develops in childhood. It is accessible to both unconscious and conscious mind. The third level of mind is unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is the largest part of mind, comprising 9 by 10. They can become conscious only through pre-conscious mind, and it is a storehouse for repressed ideas and all significant and disturbing memories and experiences which need to be kept out of awareness because it causes pain. According to Freud, these memories and experiences influences some of our unexplained beliefs, habits, and behaviors. Now let us have a look at psychosexual development. According to Freud, a person's personality is determined according to his childhood experience and the content of his unconscious mind. So why unconscious mind? Because the unconscious mind is the reservoir of important things that happened in childhood stage or psychosexual stages. So what are psychosexual stages? Freud theorized that personality traits evolved through a series of stages that occur during childhood and adolescence. These are called psychosexual stages because they focus on mental ideas about sex. Now there are different psychosexual stages. We will have a look at them. The first psychosexual is oral stage, that is 0 to 2 years of age. Freud called these periods as oral stage because child's libidinal energy is focused on his oral cavity or mouth, such as sucking mother's breast or feeding bottle and biting. Infant's primary source of interaction occurs through the mouth, so the rooting and sucking reflex is especially important. For example, if a child's experience with mother is anxious and conditional, he learns to mistrust her. So this basic mistrust gives paranoid idea in adulthood, such as it can cause suspicious nature and paranoid personality disorder. Adult oral personality traits that derive from the oral stage include anything to do with the mouth, such as smoking, overeating, or biting the nails, being dependent on others, or anything that is baby-like. The second psychosexual stage, according to Freud, is anal stage that will be 2 to 3 years of age. Freud called it anal phase because libidinal energy is focused on anus and urethra. This stage centers on toilet training, and according to him, during toilet training, inappropriate parental approach can result in negative outcomes, such as if a parent is too lenient, anal expulsive personality could develop, in which the individual has a messy, wasteful, and destructive personality. Or if a parent is too strict or begin toilet training too early, Freud believed that an anal retentive personality develops, in which the individual is stringent, orderly, rigid, and obsessive. The third stage is phallic stage that will be 3 to 6 years of age. In this stage, the child's erogenous zone is in the genital area. The term phallic means any representation of the penis, and it is at this stage that children become aware of whether or not they have penis. As the child becomes more interested in his genitals and in the genitals of others, conflict arises. The conflict labeled as the Oedipus complex in men and the Electra complex in women. It involves the child's unconscious desire to possess the opposite sex parent and to eliminate the same-sexed one. Fixation at the phallic stage develops a phallic character who is reckless, resolute, self-assured, and narcissistic. The failure to resolve the conflict can also cause a person to be afraid or incapable of close love. Freud also postulated that fixation could be a root cause of homosexuality. The fourth stage is latency stage that will be 6 to 12 years of age. The resolution of the phallic stage leads to latency period. At this stage, the sexual drive lies dormant. The child's attention is focused on learning skills and other peer activities. The latent period is a time of exploration in which the sexual energy is still present, but it is directed to other areas such as intellectual pursuits, social interaction, athletics, and making friends. This stage is important in the development of social skills, communication skills, and building self-confidence. Now, coming to the final stage of psychosexual development is genital stage, which arises during adolescence when teenagers begin to show sexual interest. This stage leads to adult affection and love, and if all has gone well in the previous stages, interest will be on heterosexual relationships. This is a time of exploring pleasure through more mature love and affection. Now coming to defense mechanism, first of all the question is, why do we use defense mechanisms? We use defense mechanisms to protect ourselves from feelings of anxiety or guilt, which arises because we feel threatened or because our id or superego becomes too demanding. Sigmund Freud and his daughter Anne Freud noted a number of defense mechanisms, and we will look at some of them. The first defense mechanism we will look is compensation. So what is compensation? Compensation is a process of masking perceived negative self-concepts by developing positive self-concepts to make up for and to cover those perceived negative self-concepts. Okay, so it looks very confusing, the sentence, but it will become clear if we look at the example. So for example, if you think you are not good in sports as compared to your friends, you try to compensate in another field, such as by working hard to excel in your academic field. Okay, the next defense mechanism is rationalization. So, sometimes our unconscious make up a good reason to explain our failure in an area or something why we didn't like. For example, if we fail in a test, we blame it on the teacher saying he or she was unfair in giving marks. Rationalizing protects us from the anxiety of seeing ourselves as deficient. However, this is not rational, it is only rationalizing. Being rational means being objective. In rationalization, our mind protects us with a reason that only sounds good. It is not objective, it just seems to be. Displacement defense mechanism. Freud suggested this defense mechanism to explain how a person's unconscious wishes could appear in dreams but in disguise. This defense mechanism can also be used to explain behaviors outside of dreams. For instance, when a person's displeasure is directed towards some other object rather than the source of the displeasure. For example, a teacher who is angry with supervisor cannot show his feelings towards the supervisor but react with unreasonable anger when a student scored low marks in test. Sublimation defense mechanism. Sublimation is when we redirect or rechannel our undesirable emotions and thoughts into a socially acceptable activity. Through sublimation, unpleasant mental energy is redirected into acceptable work. For example, when a person is very angry and feeling a hatred towards another person, the person might vigorously wash all his dirty clothes. Denial defense mechanism. This defense mechanism is a primitive form of repression. In this instance, a person simply denies things that produce anxiety. The term is often used today in referring to people who have obvious problems with alcohol, drugs, or broken relationships but refuse to accept that those problems exist. Denial is not lying, but individual does not accept existence of something that's disturbing. Regression defense mechanism. Regression occurs when an individual is faced with anxiety from a conflict that cannot be solved by using the adaptive mechanism with which he used to solve problems. In such a situation, he may unconsciously return to the patterns of behavior appropriate to an earlier developmental stage, such as being childish. Projection defense mechanism. Projection defense mechanism is transferring the responsibility of unacceptable ideas, wishes, or thoughts to another person when individual's own aggressive thoughts are unacceptable to him and cause anxiety. In such situations, he put the blame on others. Many of the predictions that a person makes about someone else are in fact true about the person making the prediction. So be careful when you say something bad about others, it might be true about you. Now let us look into the last defense mechanism that is mentioned here, that is reaction formation defense mechanism. So when do we use this defense mechanism? Sometimes people's mental and emotional energy is so threatening that they adopt the reverse, that is the opposite of what they really want. A person who believes that drinking alcohol is a terrible sin, yet who has a desire to drink alcohol, might be protected by reaction formation. In this case, the person's unconscious adopt a hatred of alcohol. The person might join groups that protest alcohol use and might attempt to pass law against drinking alcohol. In reaction formation, a person's unconscious takes on the beliefs that are opposite of the true desires, those repressed in the unconscious. Okay, so that is all in this video. Thank you so much for watching.